All right, Mr. Monty Messex from DFL, Dead Fucking Last. Yeah. Dude, thank you so much for being here today on my show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to briefly touch on the history of your band.
So yeah, it was kind of started as almost like a joke band, in like the early 90s. I was hanging out with our friend Ione Sky, who was dating Adam Horovitz. And we were all hanging out together, and I had my son was probably, I don't know, maybe 9 months old or something like that, or pretty young. And Ione and Adam would babysit, and we would go out to lunches and brunches and just do shit together with them like normal people. And then also we'd go over to G-Sun, and it was like at that time that they were recording Check Your Head, which is like one of my top 10 records of all time.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I was just hanging out with Adam one day, and I just like joking just said, hey, you want to start a hardcore band? I wrote all these like hardcore songs, like these old school hardcore songs. And he was like, yeah. And so we went over to G-Sun, and they had all their gear set up, and grabbed Tony on drums and Tom as a vocalist, and just so over a couple of days, just kind of worked on the songs, but just didn't take it too seriously. And Mario C, their collaborator and producer, he recorded it all, and it was kind of funny because I was in college at the time, and then I went away for the summer. I went to England. And my wife, I think, sent me a letter, and she was like, hey, the Beasties released, a record, your record. I was like, oh, wow. And then she was like, oh, and Brett Gurewitz wants to sign you guys. And I was like, oh, this is really weird.
What a trip, man. So that must have been so insanely fun, and just like, obviously it all happened naturally. And I wanted to ask you too, so you already had all of the songs ready to go, and you just brought them to the table and said, check it out.
Most of them, yeah. On that 7-inch, definitely, I had most of them. I wrote all the music, and that's kind of our process, is that I write all the music, and then like I'll come up with like choruses. So like kind of like the hook to the song, and then Tom will write the verses. And I don't ever ask him like you should write it this way or write it that way. He just the guy's like a poet, and he can just do whatever the fuck he wants.
Awesome.
And and I'll write like the part like pizza man, he delivers, or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they were all pretty much formed, and yeah, and then we just busted them out. And I listen now, and it's yeah, the shit is so fast. It's so
definitely your style. And obviously, be like where I grew up in Central Oregon and Eastern Oregon in around the 90s, and getting a hold of Punkorama and things like that from our local tiny little record store like changed our life. It was like an atom bomb went off. Skateboarding, punk rock, and all that shit. And all of you guys informed our world in a big way. So thank you for making that music. And I did want to touch on your process for writing. Do you have any rituals that you do when you write a song?
Yeah, that's a good question. So kind of my process for writing is a couple things. One, I don't like playing stuff I've already written. Like I'll rehearse it, if we're like playing live and stuff like that. But I get really bored, and so I just start noodling on the guitar, and then I'll just hit on like a riff, and then it'll be like a puzzle that I'll start like kind of trying to assemble.
Cool.
And the other thing I try to do, especially in particular for DFL, because DFL has a certain sound, is I try to ask myself, like, I grew up on punk rock and hardcore in the early 80s, I'm older than you, and I try to put myself back into like a club in the early 80s, like the Fleetwood, or the Vax or the Starwood or Godzilla's or something like that. And I asked myself, like, would I be like, if I heard this song coming from the stage back then, would I like rush to the pit?
Yeah.
And if for me, if it feels like authentic like that, then I go with it and I just work on it, you know. And like I said, and then with, you know, and I'll usually come up with like a chorus, you know, some type of chorus will jump out at me. And then Tom writes the verses, and then sometimes he'll write the whole song too, you know, and I don't really bug him about, you know, like I said, he has his own process, he has his own style, and I love it. The guy's like a poet, so it's just, you know, it just works.
That's awesome. So you do your thing and he does his, and you put it together.
Yeah.
Great. That's really cool when you can work with somebody like that, where you just get along and you can express yourself the way that you want to.
Totally. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's a good segue into talking about the present and the future for DFL. And I think that, you know, you just dropped a brand new single just a couple days ago on the 12th. And I checked it out. It's awesome. It's totally true to form, fast and furious, hardcore punk. It's fucking awesome. And yeah, absolutely. And I was just wondering when the full length is set to drop, and more details about that, I suppose.
I think it's due out in August.
Okay.
I think late August is when SBAM and Satan are gonna release it, and so we're really stoked to be working with them. And again, like that song that we released Wednesday, I think it was the 12th, like you said. You know, again, it was the kind of song where I think myself, like, if I heard that song coming from the stage, you know, and you're like in the back of like a club, like, would you want to, like, you know, get up to the front, you know, and just jump in and just be part of just all the madness?
I would say so.
You know, it has kind of a weird beginning, you know, kind of a long intro, but again, to me, it just felt so reminiscent of the bands that I came up on in the 80s, early 80s. And so, but yeah, and, you know, we recorded it like all, you know, lo-fi. Sorry, that's my dog freaking out.
It's all good.
And we recorded it lo-fi and quick, you know, that's like our style of recording. And so for this, we didn't want to like deviate from that. We wanted to just keep doing, you know, the same thing where we just, like, I literally came in, showed the bass player and the drummer the song, practiced it a couple times, recorded it, moved on, and then, you know, then mixed it with Greg, and then recorded some stuff with Greg and stuff like that. And yeah.
And that's Greg Hetson from Bad Religion?
Yeah. So Greg Hetson, Circle Jerks, Bad Religion, Frida.
That's awesome. That's really cool. You've had yeah, I mean, you've had some good luck and just good experiences, I think, with meeting the right people and collaborating with really cool musicians. And so did he kind of act as a producer in a way on that?
Yeah. You know, we went, you know, and we recorded all the vocals over at his house, and all the guitar, like we did a little bit of guitar overdubs for some leads, and then we mixed everything at his house. And, you know, he, I think, really kind of helped kind of put his stamp on the record.
So cool.
But yeah, we've been really fortunate in, you know, hooking up with all sorts of really creative, interesting people. So, and grateful for that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I also wanted to ask too, about, speaking of the future, the release of the full length is coming up in the summer, but do you have any plans set to do shows?
Yeah, you know, we've got a couple festivals booked in 2022.
Okay.
So I think we're gonna probably do Pooza Fest, and then also I think we're gonna do SBAM Fest.
Okay.
And yeah, and then, things are just opening up. So hopefully, more things will come our way, and we want to get out there and play music. I mean, that's the most fun part, is just connecting with people and playing the music. So hopefully we get some other stuff going.
Yeah, things
The
are,
world keeps opening up and doesn't like clamp back down.
yeah, I think that's in the back of everyone's mind, right? It's like that worry that maybe this isn't, who knows? Maybe it's not working. Maybe it'll have to clamp back down. So I hope
Yeah,
not.
not. Fingers
I'm
crossed.
I'm really looking forward to seeing music. And it's one of those things that, as a live performer and somebody that's been in, around all of the scene for so long, you take for granted. And then it gets yanked away from you. And, I'm hoping I'll never take it for granted again. And if my friends come to town, I'll go no matter what.
Yeah, that's one thing I think that the pandemic has really clarified in my mind, is just how just the stuff that we took for granted in our daily lives, like going to a show or going to a restaurant or jumping on a plane and going wherever, visit family or business or whatever you were doing, all those things are not necessarily givens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so definitely makes a lot of gratitude, and yeah, really, every day is basically a gift that you're above.
Absolutely.
Totally. And I forgive me, but I don't know much about your pod, or your is it a YouTube channel that you?
So right now it's a YouTube channel, and I'm also going to take the audio and make just a straight podcast with it too, and get it out that way. But it happened during the lockdown that I was laid off from my job. So I started just reaching out to all my friends and bands and reconnecting with people, which I had taken for granted, and like I was touching on. And so just reaching back out to people last year about, somewhere around this time, I guess, and decided to turn it into a YouTube channel just to kind of share a moment in time.
Well, it's cool. I'm glad to be on this. Like I said, we've got this new music coming out, and hopefully, get it out there to like to the fans, people that know DFL, and then turn on people to like a different type of hardcore. I mean, yeah. It's kind of the slower kind of hardcore that I think people think about these days, but it's more of like that early 80s hardcore that not a lot of bands I think are playing anymore. So,
yeah.
But yeah, get the record out, and we're stoked on working with SBAM. They're super nice people, and they
was going to ask, yeah,
cool stuff in Europe. And then this record label Say10, which is also really cool here in the United States. And they're gonna kind of the release here in North America, and yeah. Cool. And we've got some other releases coming up too in 2022, which I think will be really cool. So stay tuned for that, and there'll be more information. But we've definitely got a few things in the works that for 2022 that are gonna be really cool.
Awesome, man. That is cool. So part of my show is music and playing live, and any, funny or crazy stories from shows that you have, which I'm sure you have a few. And also traveling, I think it just kind of evolved that way because those were the things we couldn't do, and we still can't really do much of. So I was wondering some places that you've been that are some of your favorites, and you'd like to go back to, perhaps.
Well, definitely with DFL, I think a couple places we went that were really amazing was Brazil. We toured Brazil, and there was this, I think it's on the east coast of Brazil, like kind of where it kind of goes to a point in South America, like that. Like right at the point, it's like a town called Recife, and we played there, and it was just beautiful. I mean, just spectacular, and nicest people, and totally into punk rock, and that was a fun place. I don't know if I'll ever get back there, but it was pretty cool. And Japan, had some really great shows in Japan and Tokyo, playing some shows in the 90s. So yeah, and hopefully this time around we can get back to Japan and get back. And then we actually never made it to Europe. We were about to go to Europe with Melancholy when we broke up.
Okay.
So hopefully we can, you know, especially working with SBAM, and you know they're doing some really cool stuff in Europe. So
are they based there in Europe?
Yeah, they're based in Austria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rad.
Hmm?
That's rad. I've done Europe a few tours, but I've never done Japan and never been to Brazil. I would love to go.
Hope to get back there. And funny, cool thing with Europe that I'm kind of getting turned on to, at least, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but it seems like there's like a real kind of like skate punk is like really big there, or at least in certain places. So it's, and especially I think 90s kind of skate punk has like a kind of a niche in Europe. So it's cool to be kind of getting turned on to those people that are really into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that definitely tripped me out when we got back together, like we were broken up for like 17 years, and I really never thought DFL was gonna get back together. I mean, it kind of moved on with my life. And but I thought that the one thing that was really cool is that punk seems like it's bigger than ever. You know, I mean, it's the festivals are bigger than ever. And I think a big driving force in that is the internet, is that people can share music really easily and share video really easily. And so you could, you know, just, you know, with a couple seconds, you could listen to some, like a band from the early 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and onward, you know, and so I don't know. I think that's a really cool thing, is that it's, you know, music hasn't gone anywhere. I mean, certainly I think that the big bucks, you know, that were there in the 90s when they had something to sell, like the CD, has kind of gone away.
Yeah.
Not the fans and not the people making music too, because there's still new bands making music too that are cool and stuff. So not just, you know, older bands. And you could play like a festival where you have a band like us from like the 90s and a band from like the Dickies or something from like the late 70s. And then you could have like a brand, you know, a newer band like Pears or something like that playing, all smushed together, you know, and people just dig all of it.
Yeah, with the internet, you're not necessarily like digging through crates anymore to try to find that, or reading the back of the thanks of the record to see what other bands to check out, or looking at their t-shirts on stage.
Right.
All those things.
Unless, of course, you're trying to buy like old t-shirts or records or something like that. But then again, still a lot of it can just be done online, but there are people still out there in person too. There seem like there's still record stores out there, which is awesome.
Yeah. I was wondering, do you have any travel tips for young would-be road dogs when things do open up fully?
Travel tips.
Yeah.
Travel tips. Well, I'll tell you one thing, this just works for me, is that, you know, just enjoy being outside of your comfort zone and in different places in the world. You know what I mean? And some people, you know, they're on tour and they're just going to lock down in their hotel and wherever they're staying and just play the show. And that's what they do. For me, I'm like, wow, I just got like a paid for ticket to Tokyo or wherever. I'm going to go out and try to find somebody that's like from Tokyo to hang out with and go eat some fucking crazy food or something like that, or, you know, or whatever, you know. And so I really try to get out in the world and, you know, and just see. I mean, I remember we played this party in Tokyo and there was this dude that was, I think he was with maybe with Extra Large or Grand Royal. I think he was with Extra Large, but I just went off with him, you know, and we went to like this, he took me to this alley where all they make was yakitori, like, which is like they're like little hibachis, and they cook chicken or whatever on like a little skewer.
Nice.
And they were just these little stands that, you could sit maybe 3 people, shoulder to shoulder, and pick out the yakitori, and they would make it. And I guess they would sit there and drink and stuff. And that was like an amazing thing, to do, So I'd say, get out in the world, enjoy the world, talk to people. And also another travel tip I have is, what do they call it? The TSA Fast Pass, or what's the one where you can get through? I forget the name of that.
Yeah, it's like the quick, like, you skip the line, you have a passport.
Yeah, haven't used it in a while. The TSA, I don't know, it's like the Fast Pass or whatever.
Yeah.
But it costs, I think, like $100 or something like that. It's good for 5 years. That thing is worth every penny.
Absolutely. So yeah, you skip most of the line and you go. I always saw those people going, and I was like, you bastards.
Yeah. that thing rules. You don't take off your shoes, you don't take off your belt. It's like pre 9/11 screening. So,
right. The olden days.
I'm blanking on it.
Yeah, I mean, to briefly touch on your point before, is that if you're already there in the country, for fuck's sake, get out of your hotel room and experience it. And I completely agree with you there.
It's worth it. I mean, I've had some really, a trusted traveler program. So I'm a trusted traveler. They basically make you swear that you're not a terrorist. Basically, you have to I swear I am not a terrorist. I have some great memories. Like in Brazil, we met this one dude. We went to the beach and we went swimming, and then we ended up on somebody's boat. And then we met this guy that played, I think it's like the billabong. It's like a 1-stringed instrument. And he was like this reggae guy, and he took us to his like mud hut and stuff.
Wow.
Just getting out and just doing whatever,
That's so cool.
So, yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I've got a long list now of all the places.
It's a big world out there.
Definitely. I'm so looking forward to when you guys come through Denver. That's where I am. So.
Oh, you're in Denver.
My wife and I recently were able to buy a house here.
Ooh, nice.
It's our home, but it's right in Globeville, which is older neighborhoods in Denver. And it's right near Globe Hall, which is a nice little venue. And then there's a much bigger one that's much newer called Mission Ballroom too. That's, I presume, going to start doing shows soon. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, we played in Denver with, I think twice, once with Pennywise, and I think we played there also with Sublime.
Awesome.
Or the Slayer, one of the two.
Cool. Wow. Yeah.
I just remember going up to Denver, and like as you're going up to the elevation, thinking like, why do I feel so weird? And then it occurred to me, it's like, oh yeah, you're like a mile above sea level.
Yeah. Like it didn't used to bother me when we would come here and play, but then I lived down in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands when I was there for about 3 years, and got very accustomed to the heat and the sea level. And then coming here, the first 2 weeks of living here was just kind of hell. I was just fucked up.
yeah. Elevation. So are you still playing music?
Not currently, no. My brother Joshua Marshall, who's the bass player of His Flask and a songwriter as well. Him and I are writing some new stuff, but I haven't been really playing much. So I'm hoping to get back into it.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. Well, Monty, thank you so very much for being on this show today. I really appreciate you, and look forward to hearing the full length.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, brother. And take it easy. Good luck with your own songwriting. And yeah, and thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.
All
Peace.
right. Bye.
Bye.